Okay, so here we go with the final PowerPoint audio-video presentation of the semester. So I'm going to cover cultural context for A Case of Exploding Mangoes and say a little bit about interpreting the novel. So I'm doing both emphases there. And so there you see, I thought it'd be interesting to see an alternate cover for A Case of Exploding Mangoes. That's a cover of the audio book. Kind of evocative. There's grilled mango, there's a hand grenade, there's an airplane. The novel was well received. You know, it's a relatively recent novel, right? 2008, if I'm not mistaken. It was well received, and so here's a quote from the New Statesman, what they said about this novel, which is very positive, and I think it relates to the focus of this course. So the New Statesman said, "This brassy, savvy comic debut is the latest in the thrilling new wave of Pakistani English literature that places Pakistan, rather than its relationship with the West, confidently at the center of the action. The influences apparent in Hanif's prose include the grotesque, scatological, surrealist political satire and theater of the absurd of Wole Soyinka's Madmen and Specialists, John le Carré's spy novels, and Joseph Heller's classic parody of military bureaucracy, Catch-22. I have a lot to say about Pakistan as a cultural context. Obviously the novel is set in 20th century Pakistan, so that's what I'll focus on. Of course, it was written in 21st century Pakistan, written in English by a Pakistani writer. So there's a sort of a close-up view of Pakistan, just showing that it's between Afghanistan and India and China, and showing the location of major cities, many of which are mentioned in the novel. Here is Pakistan from a broader view. See, it's this brownish green thing right here, and so that gives you a sense of maybe its location in a broader sense, its relationship to India and Russia and China and Iran and Afghanistan and so on. About that. So Pakistan as a nation was created in 1947. After World War II, India, so to speak, decolonized India. England, so to speak, decolonized India. India had been a colony of England for a long time. But England withdrew, as you know, as happened in Africa in the first few decades after World War II. I mean, throughout across the globe, there was a lot of decolonization, imperialist withdrawal, and so on. And so, in any case, leading up to this decolonization by England, which established independence for India and Pakistan, the Muslim League was lobbying for creation of a separate nation for the Muslim minority of India. So in the run-up to decolonization and independence, the Muslim League was lobbying for their own nation separate from the Hindu majority. So as a Muslim minority, they wanted their own nation. There was a lot of negotiation. It looked to be in doubt. It didn't seem like it was going to happen. In the run-up to independence, the Muslim League planned a day of protest, which evolved into riots that killed thousands of people, most of them Hindus, in the city of Calcutta, which you can see is near what is now Bangladesh. Pakistan and India split at the moment of independence from England, and this triggered a flood of Muslim migration. And so this, you know, Pakistan was not necessarily, it was not where, you know, all the Muslims of India were concentrated, but Muslims across India migrated to East and West Pakistan. So there were hundreds of thousands of refugees. It's estimated that 200,000 people died in violence associated with this this migration. So Pakistan now is 23% of the area that was British India. It has 18% of the population of what was British India. Less than 10% of the industry. And then in 1971, Bangladesh, well, East Pakistan became Bangladesh. The division of India and Pakistan into two nations at the moment of independence from England is referred to as partition. The breakup of East and West Pakistan into Pakistan and Bangladesh is referred to as a second partition. In Pakistan, the principal language is Urdu, which has Persian origins and the influence of Hindi. There are lots of regional languages and dialects. Their population is approximately 140 million, which is the world's sixth largest nation in terms of population. They've been a nuclear power since 1998, and there are references to that in the novel. Since partition from India, they've had 3 constitutions, 3 wars with India, one of them over the region Kashmir and one over Bangladesh, and 4 military coups, and I'll talk more about those shortly. They've essentially had 10-year periods of democracy alternating with 10-year periods of dictatorship. They've kind of oscillated between democracy and dictatorship. It kind of raises the question of whether Islam is incompatible with a multi-party democracy. Some people say it may be. And that may be why Pakistan oscillated between democracy and dictatorship. Or some people say that tension with India has necessitated a dominant military, and that's what they've been struggling with. History and politics, so I'm talking a lot about the history of Pakistan and the politics of Pakistan because obviously that's the focus of the novel. It's very much a political, historical novel. And so, am I looking at the right page here? Yes, I am. Okay, so that's a picture of Z.A. That's a picture of Z.A. Bhutto. In 1979, the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, right at the end of 1979. And General Zia was in power at the time. That worked in his favor. The Soviets invaded neighboring Afghanistan. That worked in Zia's favor. He was president of Pakistan at the time. Aid from the U.S. totaling $3.2 billion came in over the next 6 years. The U.S. and Western in general concern about the Soviets being in Afghanistan lessened the pressure on Pakistan to return to democracy and to defend human rights. It also kind of enabled Pakistan's pursuit of nuclear capability. Again, the West was a little less concerned with that because of the threat of the Soviets in Afghanistan next door. So Pakistan became a nuclear power in 1998. Pakistan funneled U.S. aid to the Afghan freedom fighters, as they were called, during the Soviet occupation, which included the Taliban. And Pakistan allowed the Taliban and other freedom fighters to base their operations in border regions in Pakistan bordering Afghanistan. The Soviets withdrew in 1988, 9 years after the invasion. In 1996, the Taliban took control of Afghanistan and enforced Islamization and made Afghanistan into a strict Muslim nation. The Taliban obviously supported Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. The Taliban were defeated in the fall of 2001, right after 9/11, essentially, by combined forces of the U.S. and Afghan military. The Taliban regrouped in 2004, and well, that's still kind of a problem. So Bhutto here, Zia Bhutto, who's pictured, was in power from the end of 1971 until mid-1977. He installed the third constitution of Pakistan, which is still in place and is still effective. He did that early in his presidency. He was hailed by many as a shrewd combiner of democracy and socialism, although he had a goal of complete Islamization by the 80s, the kind of Islamization that the Taliban effected later. Socialist initiatives included limiting land ownership to 150 irrigated acres or 300 non-irrigated acres of land. He nationalized many industries, including the iron and steel industry, the electrical, chemical industries, insurance, cotton and flour industries or markets were socialized under Bhutto. In 1977, elections were held, and the results were somewhat suspect. And in the following weeks, there were anti-Bhutto protests, and some formerly supportive groups that had supported Bhutto, participated in those protests, such as students and small traders, small businessmen. Over 2 weeks, there were 200 deaths, as the protests were repressed and martial law was imposed in 3 cities. Bhutto asked the army for help, and the army effected a bloodless coup. That's when General Zia took over, and of course he's central to the novel. He was a recent appointee of Bhutto's, and he was trusted by Bhutto, but under his leadership, with his appointment, began what some have called a long and repressive military regime. Zia had Bhutto arrested and then released him 3 weeks later, and then arrested him again a month later and charged him with being behind an attempt on the life of one of his Pakistan People's Party rivals in 1974. So he said back in 1974, Bhutto had been behind an attempt on someone's life. In March of 1978, Bhutto was sentenced to death, and he was hung in April of 1979, executed by hanging. More politics. So there's Zia, General Zia. Looks like a general, doesn't he? And then we'll talk about Musharraf here and Benazir Bhutto. So Bhutto had appointed Zia because Zia was a pious Muslim that had strong anti-India sentiments. Zia continually promised democratic elections while dismantling democracy. His main initiative was aggressive Islamization. He exploited U.S. support after the 1979 Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, as I've said. Islamization meant outlawing the charging of interest on loans, which is prohibited in the Quran. It includes levying a charity tax in line with zakat, which is a Muslim concept of tithing, and the tax is 2.5% on deposit accounts. Islamization made Islamic and Quranic studies part of the required school curriculum and established many madrasas to combat illiteracy. It meant the appointment of Muslim clerics to serve as judges throughout the judiciary, and it meant imposing Quranic punishments for crimes, punishments like canings and stonings and amputation of hands for theft. Under Islamization, the testimony of one man is equal to the testimony of 2 women. And under Zia, there was the imposition of Islamic dress code for female flight attendants and TV announcers. No more Western garb for those public women. Let's see. Women who had made significant advances under previous administrations resented Islamization. The Shiite Muslim minority, 20% of the population, resented the Sunni Islamization. Pressure to return to democracy rose in the early 80s, and Zia did hold elections, but some of them were suspect. He allowed Z.A. Bhutto's daughter, Benazir Bhutto, who's here, to return from exile, and then promptly arrested her for taking part in a protest. 3 years after holding elections, he dissolved the elected assembly. In 1978, okay, now I'm getting mixed up. Let me pause this for a second. Sorry about that. Okay, 1988. In 1988, I had a typo in my notes. Zia died in a plane crash that many can still consider to have been suspicious. And yes, the novel sort of dramatizes that plane crash. The next day, the Army Chief of Staff declared that the military would withdraw from government, and the elections that Zia had promised to hold would take place, the Army said, and this marked a return to parliamentary multi-party democracy. So, roughly 10 years of dictatorship after roughly 10 years of democracy, and now back to democracy. Benazir Bhutto is an interesting story. She was Z.A.'s daughter, Z.A. Bhutto's daughter. She was a populist who, quote, had an emotional capital based on the martyrdom of her father and the mysterious assassination of one of her brothers, and also her own and her mother's periodic house arrests. So she had political capital, sort of an emotional capital. She championed democracy and the poor. She became prime minister in 1988 until 1990. She was prime minister again from 93 to 96. Now Pakistan has had prime ministers and presidents, and I've mostly focused on their presidents. Zia was a president. But in any case, Benazir Bhutto was the first ever female prime minister of a Muslim country. In 1999, General Pervez Musharraf, who's here, rose to power as president in yet another military coup. And he ruled until 2008. In October of 2007, Benazir Bhutto returned from exile after being offered amnesty by Musharraf. She survived an assassination attempt on the day of her return. A suicide bomber killed 134 of her supporters, who had formed a protective ring around her armored vehicle into which she happened to duck to remove her sandals just before the bomb went off. 2 months later, on December 27th, 2007, she was assassinated. This time the perpetrators sent a gunman and a bomber, and she was killed as she was standing up through the sunroof of an armored car. Her husband, her widower, Asif Ali Zardari, became president of Pakistan in September 2008, so about 9 months after her death. Musharraf had resigned under threat of impeachment. In 2013, the current president rose to power. His name is Mamnoon Hussain. He's considered to be a loyalist to a powerful prime minister whose name I didn't write down, but who is an Islamist. Religion obviously is important context for this novel and any novel set in Pakistan. Sharia law, which you may have heard about in the American media, is something we should delve into. Sharia means path or way. It's the sacred law of Islam. Most Muslims believe that Sharia is derived from two primary sources, namely the divine revelations set forth in the Quran and the example set by the Prophet Muhammad in the Sunnah. All Muslims believe Sharia is God's law, but they differ as to what exactly it entails. Modernist, traditionalist, and fundamentalist Muslims all hold different views of Sharia, of course, as do different schools of Islamic thought and scholarship. Different nations and cultures have varying interpretations of Sharia as well. Sharia deals with many topics addressed by secular law, including crime, politics, economics, as well as personal matters such as sexuality, hygiene, diet, prayer, and fasting. It covers 11 topics. Purification, meaning purification with water or earth before praying or before ritual, meaning purification by avoiding contact with impure animals, such as swine, pigs. And also it deals with rules of hygiene and household cleanliness. Sharia law covers 11 topics, so purification is one of them. Prayer is another, the 5 daily prayers. The third is the funeral prayer. The fourth is zakat, the charity tax of 2.5%. The fifth is fasting, which is, we've talked before about Ramadan and the fasting during Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. The sixth topic covered by Sharia law is the pilgrimage to Mecca. It also covers trade, which is the 7th of 11. Under most interpretations, interest and insurance are prohibited by Sharia law. 8 is inheritance. It covers inheritance. It covers 9, marriage. It allows up to 4 wives, in fact, but polygamy is rare. And in some Islamic nations, it's illegal. Obviously, that was an issue in Hala. It covers, the 10th topic Sharia law covers is divorce, which is not very common. I don't know why I have 13 topics. At the top of my list I said there are 11 topics. Anyway, it turns out it's 13. So the 11th is justice. So punishments like amputating a thief's hand under certain circumstances. Punishing adulterers, men and women, by execution by stoning. Eyewitness testimony, confession, and oath outweigh other forms of evidence. Sharia law does not provide for lawyers in trials. 12 is diet. There are rules for ritual slaughter of animals, and you may have remember references in the novel to halal. No intoxicants. No animals with sharp canines or birds with talons or tamed donkeys. Under Sharia law, you don't eat those things. The last topic it covers is dress codes. For men, the body should be covered knees to waist. For women, only face and hands may show. There's controversy over the exact nature of the veil. Zia's death, General Zia. There are theories about this, and this comes from the Times of London and their website, so I'm just paraphrasing them. There are theories. These are the most common ones. Some say it was the CIA that killed Zia. The discovery of phosphorus-covered mango seeds amid the wreckage of the airplane sparked the theory that the CIA had spiked the mangoes with VX gas to eliminate Zia because of his unstable commitment to a more democratic government and his loyalty to Afghan extremists. Benazir Bhutto had a different theory. She said Zia's death must have been an act of God. The Bhutto family, some people blame the Bhutto family, have theories that the Bhutto family is behind it, that it was an assassination. Yes, okay. The KGB. Some people blame the KGB because the Soviet Union probably wanted revenge for its failure to subdue the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, who had found safe haven in Pakistan and were armed and supported by Zia. Some say it was the Israeli intelligence service Mossad. In fact, the American ambassador to India at the time of Zia's death suspected that the Israeli Secret Service was behind the attack to stop Pakistan from developing nuclear weapons. Some people have the theory that India was behind his death. That's Pakistan's traditional enemy that was anxious about a potential Islamist victory in Kabul, Pakistan. And finally, the Pakistani intelligence. They're notorious. They're known as the Inter-Services Intelligence Agency, and they're accused by some of sabotaging the aircraft. There's the novelist Muhammad Hanif, and I'm going to pause for a second to update his biography. Okay, and just very quickly, he was born in 1964, obviously in Pakistan. Writer and journalist, born in the city of Okara. Graduate of the Pakistan Air Force Academy. Graduated as a pilot officer, but then left to pursue his journalism career. He worked initially for Newsline, Washington Post, and India Today. He moved to London in the mid-90s to work for the BBC. Later became the head of BBC's Urdu service in London. In 2005, he graduated from the University of East Anglia. In 2008, he moved back to Pakistan. I should credit Wikipedia there. That's where I got that information. Just a quick slideshow here of the clothing and aircraft that are mentioned frequently in the novel. You might want to know what you would see if you saw those with your own eyes. And so here's the shalwar kameez, which is worn by both men and women. So you can see it's a long tunic over pants, essentially, in both cases. Here's the dupatta that's mentioned frequently in the novel, as I said. Burqa is the covering of women. That's an interpretation of Sharia law, and so there you see many women wearing burqas, showing only their eyes and their hands. There's a C-130 aircraft of Pakistan Air Force. That's the aircraft that crashes in the novel. And the other aircraft that features in the novel is this little trainer, the MF-17. Okay, so interpreting A Case of Exploding Mangoes. And as a recent novel, there's not a lot of sources on this, but we can look at it broadly as a satire and apply some ideas about satire to it, and I have some ideas about how to interpret General Zia as a character. And so satire is considered to be a literary form that has a sting, that has a target. If you think of Golden Ass and Monkey, they were very positive novels, Golden Ass and Monkey, promoting and advocating certain religions in both cases, right? The Decameron promoted love, whereas Candide and Closely Watched Trains and Hala and A Case of Exploding Mangoes are criticizing rather than promoting. So, negative rather than positive, I guess you could say. It's a little bit reductive, though. So, Candide was criticizing optimism. Closely Watched Trains was criticizing socialism. Hala was criticizing capitalism. A Case of Exploding Mangoes is criticizing military theocracy. So they have targets that they're attacking. And that's what a satire does. It has that sting, that target. Golden Ass and Monkey, not so much. Let's see. In a source called Continuum Encyclopedia of British Literature, I found a quote by Higgins. Humor in true satire is a means to the satirist's end, not the end itself. So whereas Monkey, for example, might be meant to entertain us primarily, a satire has this ulterior motive. It might entertain us and make us laugh, but it's trying to reach a goal of attacking a target, so to speak. Let's see. Benet's Reader's Encyclopedia defines satire as a literary mode employing any number of devices that expose human or institutional vices and in which a corrective is either implied or directly proposed. I think that's a good definition that fits some of the novels that we've read, including Case of Exploding Mangoes. It's often pointed out, it's a tradition in literary studies to divide satire into Horatian and Juvenalian types. According to Merriam-Webster's, according to Benet's Reader's Encyclopedia, Horatian satire is a gently humorous satire that aims to correct through laughter. Maybe Golden Ass and Monkey fit that definition. Horatian, according to Merriam-Webster's Encyclopedia of Literature, Horatian satire opts for mild mockery and playful wit as the means most effective for its ends. So Horatian is sort of a more gentle form of satire. Juvenalian is, quote, a biting, morally indignant expose of evil and corruption, according to Benet's Reader's Encyclopedia. Or, according to Merriam-Webster's Encyclopedia of Literature, Juvenalian satire is any bitter and ironic criticism of contemporary persons and institutions that is filled with personal invective, angry moral indignation, and pessimism. So Juvenalian is a more barbed, angry satire, and I think certainly Voltaire's Candide comes across that way, and maybe that's why Closely Watched Trains is such a dark and somewhat tragic comedy, because it's Juvenalian. Same can be said of Case of Exploding Mangoes. It's interesting to note, and I think I got this from a source that I should credit, and I need to look this up. I apologize for that sloppiness, but someone has pointed out that General Zia fails in a multitude of ways. He fails as a husband in this novel. He fails as a political leader. He fails as a military leader. He fails as a physical specimen. He fails as a Muslim. And all these failures demonstrate power's ability to corrupt and represent a fierce critique of Islamization and militarization. I'm going to conclude there, and I will let you know what the source of those ideas is, if I can dig that up for you.